Kelim Perikei Mishnah Vov. Tanur shenosam boy ofad chetzio. We've got our cylindrical oven, and we block it up with earth. The bottom half is blocked up with earth, leaving only the top half of the tanur open. Me'ofo lamaton metame b'maga. Me'ofo lamalon metame b'avir. There's different ways of learning this Mishnah. We'll explain it with the Perish of the Baal Tanura, which is based on the Perish HaRambam. The Rambam learns this Mishnah in line with previous Mishnahs, that we are dealing here with a chibur of the two parts of the tanur, a chibur midrabanon. That means that midoraisa, it seems, the bottom part of the tanur is now become bottle. It doesn't exist. The only thing that's relevant midoraisa is the top part. And for sheretz is put into the top half, it's only the top half that's makabel tumah. Because the bottom half doesn't exist. It's blocked up. However, midrabanon, we regard the two halves of the tanur as being one. And as we've had in previous cases, whenever we have a chibur midrabanon, Rabbanon made a heker in the way that the tumah goes from part A to part B to prove that this is only a tumah midrabanon. They did that by saying that the chibur is only relevant when the sheretz is metama, one part, the main part, b'maga, although normally a klicheres is makabel tumah just when the sheretz is hanging in its avir, in its toich. However, for the din midrabanan, they said it's not only got to be in its avir, it's also got to touch it from the inside. So in such a case, this is the drabanan. When the sheretz touches the inside of the top half, the open half, then we say the bottom half is a chibur, belongs to the top half and becomes tummy with it. That means the relevance of the bottom half being tummy, of course, is only that if it becomes tummy, if Ochlin and Mashkin were to touch the outside of that bottom half, there would be makabel tumah. However, if the sheretz is just put into the aver on the top and is not touching the inside of the walls, that's called ba'avir. Then, for that, we say the bottom half is, we put it on the deraisa dekadin, that the bottom half is not called mechuba to the top half and remains tor. And that's what the Mishnah means. That means when the sheretz touches the top half, then the me'ofol matan, the bottom half, also becomes tummy through the maga of the sheretz of the top half. Me'ofol malon metame ba'avir. But when the sheretz is only put ba'avir, then it's only me'ofol malon, it's only the empty half, the top half, which is makabel tumah. Next case. Nisonoi al pi haboir or al pi adus v'nosan shom even. A boir is a pit, a dus is some sort of walled cistern. It's a pit in the ground, but it's like the old wells. It's got a brick or stone cistern that rises out of the ground. And the tanur is sitting on top of the boir, top of the pit. And what's happened here is that the tanur is not wide enough to sit comfortably on the edge of the boir. It's actually narrower than the whole of the boir, and it would fall actually to the bottom of the boir. The way you stop it falling through is you wedge a stone in between the edge of between the ground, the opening of the pit, and the oven. So here you've got your pit opening, you've got your tanur sitting inside, but it's wedged there because there's a stone or stones put in on the sides to stop it falling through. We've actually got two unusual characteristics to this structure. One is the base of the oven is not directly on the floor beneath it. It's the base of the oven is the base of the pit, the bottom of the pit. So the base of the oven is a long way away from the oven itself. Plus the fact that it's only held in place by a stone which is wedged between the bottom of the oven and the edge of the pit. In such a case, we have a machloikus or Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim, and into Rabbi Yehuda's din, which is the interesting one, which is the chiddush. He says, "Im masek mil maton, if you can light a fire at the bottom of the pit, and v'hu nesoik mil malon, and the oven would become heated from the fire at the bottom of the pit, then Tomei. We'll explain it. The Chachamim Tomei doesn't make a difference, since it can be heated up. It doesn't make a difference how it's heated up. It's always Tomei. This machlokas is explained by the Mefarshim. We are only talking about the Hesek Rishon, which makes the oven into an oven. If you remember, at the beginning of the Perek, we said that an oven only becomes an oven, only has its Gemar Malocha, if after it's made, you then do a Hesek. You heat up a fire in it, enough for the shear, because the life is supposed to have gone in. Look at the end of Mishnah Aleph. That's called the Hesek Rishon. Once you have your Hesek Rishon, then the Tanur is able to be Makabal Tumah forever. And it's only on that Hesek Rishon that Rabbi Yehuda introduces his unusual din. The Torah says in the Pasuk, Tanu v'kirayim yutot, that the Tanu v'kirayim have to have what's called yutot, have to be able to have an asitza, which means they have to be able to be, they are mechubar lekarka. Rabbi Yehuda holds that the Tanur can only become a Tanur, it only becomes the Gemar Malocha of a Tanur, can only be done when at that moment the Tanur is mechubar lekarka. If it's just sitting on the ground, if the Tanur is just sitting on the ground, that's called mechubar lekarka. Doesn't make any difference. Then your Hesek Rishon can be done in any way. But because you've got two unusual things, it's actually not sitting directly on the ground. It's wedged in by a stone. And the fact that the base of the oven is all the way down at the bottom of the pit, in such a circumstance, Rabbi Yehuda holds it's only called mechubar lekarka if it fulfills two conditions. One is it's not that far from the base of the pit. And secondly, that the gap between the base of the oven and the edge of the pit is not that wide, not that big, that the heat will escape. If in such a circumstance, when you light a fire at the bottom, then the fire will be able to heat up the oven through the top, then despite the fact that you've got a gap along a distance between the oven and the base of the pit, and despite the fact you've got a gap on the sides round the base of the oven, nevertheless, it's still called mechubar lekarka for this purpose. That's Rabbi Yehuda learns. The Chachamim don't hold to any of this. They don't hold to the din at all that an oven has to be mechubar lekarka at the time that you have Gemar Malocha. Chazal say even if the oven is hanging around the neck of a camel, you can heat it up and do your Gemar Malocha. Therefore, the whole Mishnah according to the Chachamim is just not relevant. It's not a point in case.